The massive alien fleet materialized at the edge of the solar system without warning, their ships dark against the starfield like spreading ink. Admiral Park Ji-ho stood in the command center of Luna Base, his weathered hands gripping the metal, railing as he watched the sensor readings with grim determination. The screen showed hundreds of enemy vessels, each one larger than Earth's biggest battleship. The Cathara Collective had conquered 17 star systems in their expansion, leaving nothing but empty worlds and scattered debris in their wake. Earth appeared to be just another primitive world ripe for harvest. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission," reported Lieutenant Kim Mina, her fingers dancing across the communication console. Her voice remained steady, despite the fear that flickered in her eyes. The alien message crackled through the speakers in a mechanical voice that seemed to drain the warmth from the room. The ultimatum was clear: surrender all resources and submit to processing or face complete annihilation. They had exactly 72 hours to respond. Captain Lee Dong-yoon, Earth's defense coordinator, stood beside a wall of monitors showing defense installations across the solar system. He had spent the last 15 years preparing for this moment, building hidden weapons and training soldiers for a war that most people hoped would never come. His finger hovered over the red activation switch as he activated the secure channel to all hidden installations. "This is what we've been preparing for," he announced, his voice echoing through bunkers on Mars, hidden bases in the asteroid belt, and secret facilities buried deep beneath Earth's surface. "All units, prepare for Operation Defiance." The response was immediate. Across the solar system, military personnel who had lived their entire careers in secrecy finally stepped into the light. On Mars, Colonel Park Ji-ho received the signal in her underground command center, where she had been overseeing the construction of weapons that officially didn't exist. In the asteroid belt, Captain Lee Min-ho acknowledged the order from his mining station that was actually a heavily armed fortress. Every person involved in the defense network had known this day would come, but none had imagined the enemy would arrive with such overwhelming force. What the Cathara didn't understand was that humanity had been preparing for this moment for decades. Dr. Cho Yuna, the lead scientist of the classified Prometheus project, watched from her underground facility as decades of preparation were about to be tested against an enemy that had never faced humanity's stubborn refusal to yield. Her laboratory stretched for miles beneath the Nevada desert, filled with prototype weapons and experimental technology that pushed the boundaries of human science. The Cathara had made a critical error in their assessment of Earth. Their scouts had reported a species barely capable of interstellar travel, still confined to their single planet with only primitive weapons and basic technology. They had observed Earth's public military forces and dismissed them as inadequate. What they failed to detect were the hidden installations that had been built in absolute secrecy, the weapons programs that existed only in classified files, and the network of defense systems that had been carefully concealed for over 2 decades. Dr. Yuna activated her personal communication device and contacted the other project leaders. "This is Prometheus Control," she said quietly. "The day we've been preparing for has arrived. All defensive systems are to be brought online immediately." Around the world, similar conversations were taking place as humanity's greatest secret was finally revealed. The aliens had given Earth 72 hours to surrender, but they had no idea that their arrival had triggered the largest military mobilization in human history. Soldiers who had trained in secret emerged from hidden bunkers. Weapons that had been tested in remote locations were transported to strategic positions. Civilians who had been recruited into the defense network years earlier received coded messages that activated their roles in Operation Defiance. Admiral Park Ji-ho looked at the tactical display showing the enemy fleet's position. The Cathara ships were arranged in a classic invasion formation, confident in their superiority and expecting either immediate surrender or a brief, one-sided battle. They had no idea that humanity's response would be unlike anything they had encountered in their previous conquests. "Lieutenant Kim," the admiral said, turning to his communication officer, "send a message to the alien fleet. Tell them that Earth has received their ultimatum and will provide our response in exactly 72 hours. Kim Mina nodded and began composing the message. The reply was simple and direct. giving no indication of the massive defensive preparations that were already underway. To the Cathara, it would appear that Earth was simply buying time, perhaps hoping for a diplomatic solution or preparing for a desperate last stand as the message was transmitted to the enemy fleet. Captain Lee Dong-yoon activated the final phase of Operation Defiance. Across the solar system, humanity's hidden arsenal began to power up. The Cathara Collective had conquered 17 star systems, but they had never faced a species that had spent decades preparing for their arrival. Earth's response would not be surrender or panic, but something the galaxy had never seen before: humanity's absolute refusal to yield to extinction. Earth's response came not through diplomacy or pleading, but through action that would forever change the galaxy's understanding of humanity. When the 72-hour deadline arrived, the Cathara fleet moved into attack position, expecting to face primitive weapons and desperate resistance. Instead, they encountered something that defied all their intelligence reports and previous conquest experiences: hidden orbital platforms that had masqueraded as space debris for over a decade suddenly came alive with weapon systems under the command of Major Song Tae-yoon. From his control station buried deep within what appeared to be a floating piece of destroyed satellite, he watched his screens light up with targeting data. "Ghost stations online," he reported calmly into his headset. "All weapons hot and ready for engagement." The platforms had been carefully positioned years earlier, disguised as the remnants of old space missions and industrial accidents. The Cathara scanners had dismissed them as harmless junk, never suspecting that each piece of debris contained enough firepower to cripple a capital ship. Major Song had spent 5 years living in these hidden stations, maintaining the weapons. And waiting for this moment, the moon's dark side revealed massive railgun installations that had been constructed in secret over the past 8 years. Commander Han Salman and her dedicated crew had worked in complete isolation, building weapons that could launch projectiles at incredible speeds across the solar system. The construction had been hidden from Earth's own population, carried out by volunteers who understood they might never see their families again. "Lunar batteries charged and ready," Commander Han reported, her voice steady despite the magnitude of what was about to happen. "We have clear targeting solutions on their lead ships." The railguns were massive structures, each one requiring enormous amounts of power and precision engineering. They represented humanity's greatest technological achievement in weapons development. "Stations, this is Control," announced General Kim Hyun-woo from the Deep Space Command Bunker located in the asteroid belt. His voice carried across secure channels to every hidden installation in the solar system. "Execute Thunderstrike Protocol." The order he had hoped never to give was finally spoken, triggering the largest coordinated military action in human history. The response was immediate and devastating. Humanity's scattered colonies throughout the solar system activated as coordinated military nodes that had been planned and prepared for decades. Every mining station, research facility, and colonial outpost revealed its true purpose as humanity's defense network came online on Mars. Colonel Park Geo launched the first wave of kinetic interceptors from launchers hidden beneath the planet's surface. The weapons shot up through concealed launch tubes, emerging from what the Cathara had assumed were simple mining operations. "First volley away," she announced, watching as dozens of high-speed projectiles streaked toward the enemy fleet. Interceptors were designed to punch through alien armor using pure kinetic energy, requiring no explosives or complex guidance systems in the asteroid belt. Captain Lee Min-ho commanded a fleet of disguised mining vessels that transformed into combat platforms. The ships had been built to look like ordinary industrial equipment, complete with fake mining operations and civilian crew quarters. But when Captain Lee activated the combat protocols, hidden armor plating extended from the hulls, weapon systems emerged from concealed compartments, and the vessels revealed their true nature as heavily armed warships. "Mining Fleet Charlie is now Combat Group 7, Captain Lee reported, his voice filled with quiet pride. "All vessels report ready for combat operations." His crew had trained for this moment in secret exercises, always maintaining the pretense that they were simple asteroid miners while actually preparing for the most important battle in human history. The Cathera's first wave of ships met a wall of kinetic projectiles, nuclear warheads and experimental energy weapons that struck them. From every direction, the alien commanders, confident in their superiority, suddenly found themselves facing coordinated attacks from positions they had never detected. Their sensors had completely failed to identify the true nature of humanity's defensive preparations. Energy. Beams lanced out from the hidden moon installations, striking Cathara vessels with devastating accuracy. The railgun projectiles, traveling at incredible speeds, punched through alien shields and armor as if they were paper. Nuclear warheads detonated in brilliant flashes of light, creating expanding spheres of destruction that consumed entire squadrons of enemy fighters. For the first time in their conquest, the collective faced a species that had spent centuries perfecting the art of war and had chosen to fight rather than flee. The Cathara had encountered resistance before, but never anything like this coordinated. Technologically advanced defense that seemed to come from nowhere and everywhere at once. The alien fleet, which had approached Earth with absolute confidence, suddenly found itself under attack from weapons and positions that shouldn't have existed. Their intelligence had been completely wrong about humanity's capabilities. This wasn't a primitive species armed with crude weapons, but a civilization that had been secretly preparing for interstellar warfare for decades. As the first phase of the battle concluded, the Cathara fleet was forced to retreat beyond the orbit of Mars, their confidence shattered and their forces significantly reduced. They had expected an easy conquest, but instead discovered that humanity's response to extinction was not surrender, but a fury that would reshape the balance of power in the galaxy. What followed was unlike any battle the galaxy had witnessed. The Cathara collective had expected humanity to fight defensively, trying to protect their homeworld from behind barriers and shields. Instead, humans didn't just defend their homeworld, they took the fight to the enemy with a ferocity that bordered on madness. The alien commanders watched in horror as human forces abandoned all concepts of self-preservation and launched attacks that defied every military doctrine they had ever encountered. Pilot Chen Xiaoxin led the first suicide run, his fighters screaming, through space toward a massive Cathara capital ship that was 3 times the size of Earth's largest battleship. His communication system crackled with static as he spoke his final words to his fellow pilots. "For Earth," he transmitted, his voice clear and determined as he rammed his fighter directly into the alien vessel's bridge. The explosion that followed took out the ship's entire command structure and left it drifting helplessly in space. The suicide attack sent shockwaves through the Cathara fleet, but it was only the beginning. Within hours, dozens of human pilots were following Xiaoxin's example, using their fighters as guided missiles against enemy ships. The aliens had never encountered an enemy willing to sacrifice individual lives for strategic advantage on such a massive scale. Their own military culture valued preservation of resources and minimizing losses, making humanity's tactics completely incomprehensible to them. Engineer Oyasian worked frantically in the orbital shipyards above Earth, converting civilian vessels into improvised weapons platforms. Her hands moved quickly as she welded plasma conduits to a cargo hauler, turning a simple transport ship into a floating bomb capable of devastating an entire enemy squadron. "If they want a war, we'll give them one they'll never forget," she muttered, sweat dripping from her forehead as she worked without rest for 36 hours straight. The conversion process was happening throughout the solar system as civilian ships were transformed into weapons of war. Passenger liners became troop transports carrying soldiers armed with experimental weapons. Cargo vessels were loaded with nuclear warheads and sent on collision courses with enemy ships. Even small personal spacecraft were modified to carry explosive payloads, turning every human in space into a potential threat. The asteroid belt became a minefield of hidden human outposts. Launching surprise attacks under the coordination of Commander Yoon, she had spent years establishing secret bases throughout the belt, disguising them as mining operations while actually building a network of fortified positions. The Cathara tried to use the asteroid belt for cover. They discovered that every large rock might hide human weapons and every mining station could suddenly reveal itself as a military installation. "Contact bearing 27 Mark IV," reported one of her sensor operators. Cathera destroyer attempting to use asteroid TK-2-447 for cover? Activate mining station 7, Commander Yoon ordered calmly. Show them what we've been mining out. Here, the asteroid suddenly erupted with weapon fire as hidden guns emerged from concealed positions. The Cathera destroyer, caught completely by surprise, was destroyed within seconds. Similar ambushes were happening throughout the belt as the aliens learned that humanity had turned their entire solar system into a fortress. Earth's military revealed technologies they had kept classified for decades, weapons and systems that had been developed in secret laboratories and tested in remote locations far from civilian populations. AI-controlled swarms of hunter-killer drones programmed by Dr. Shindeho swept through space like metallic insects, attacking any alien vessel they encountered. Each drone was small and fast, difficult to target, but capable of delivering devastating attacks against larger ships. Dr. Shin watched from his control center as thousands of his drones engaged the enemy fleet. Swarm Alpha is engaging Target Cluster 7, he reported. All drones are performing within expected parameters. The drones operated with perfect coordination, sharing information instantly and adapting their tactics based on enemy responses. They were unlike anything the Cathara had ever faced. Quantum encrypted communication. Networks managed by Specialist Kong Nyin allowed human forces to coordinate their attacks with perfect precision. The aliens found it impossible to intercept or jam human communications, leaving them unable to predict or counter humanity's moves. Every human unit could communicate instantly with every other unit, creating a level of tactical coordination that the Cathera's rigid command structure couldn't match. The most shocking revelation came when humanity deployed weapons that violated several interstellar treaties that Earth had never signed. Biological weapons, designed to target alien physiology, chemical agents that could eat through Cathera armor, and experimental energy weapons that could tear apart matter at the molecular level. The aliens realized that humanity had been developing these weapons for decades, preparing for a war that might never come, but ensuring they would be ready if it did. The Cathara began to realize they hadn't encountered a primitive species, they had awakened a sleeping predator. Their intelligence reports had been completely wrong about humanity's nature and capabilities. This wasn't a peaceful civilization that could be easily conquered, but a species that had been preparing for interstellar warfare for generations. Every human seemed willing to die fighting. Every civilian could become a soldier. And every piece of technology could be turned into a weapon. As the battle raged across the solar system, the Cathara fleet found itself facing an enemy that fought with a combination of advanced technology and primitive fury that defied all their previous experiences. They had expected to conquer Earth within days, but instead found themselves locked in a battle for survival against a species that refused to accept defeat. As the battle raged across the solar system, humanity's true nature emerged under the leadership of Fleet Admiral Bae-Suho. The veteran commander had spent 40 years in military service, but nothing had prepared him for the challenge of fighting an enemy that possessed technology centuries ahead of Earth's capabilities. Standing in the main command center, buried deep beneath the Swiss Alps, he watched holographic displays showing the ongoing battle across dozens of fronts. Faced with extinction, they didn't just fight harder, they fought smarter. Human tactical flexibility, coordinated by strategic analyst Jung Chae-young, confounded the Cathara's rigid military doctrine in ways that surprised even the human commanders. Jung had studied every piece of alien combat footage captured during the first weeks of fighting, identifying patterns in their behavior that revealed critical weaknesses. The Cathara follow predictable attack formations. Jung explained to the assembled command staff, pointing to tactical displays showing enemy movement patterns. They have superior technology, but they lack creative thinking. Every attack follows the same basic structure, and they never adapt when their initial plans fail. Her analysis revealed that the aliens had become dependent on their technological advantages, making them vulnerable to unconventional tactics. The command center buzzed. with activity as human forces across the solar system began implementing new strategies based on Jung's insights. Instead of meeting the aliens in direct confrontation, human units began using hit-and-run tactics, ambush attacks, and psychological warfare designed to exploit the Cathora's rigid thinking patterns. Civilian scientists like Dr. Moon Ji-hoon worked around the clock to reverse engineer captured alien technology, turning enemy weapons against their creators. His laboratory had become a maze of alien equipment and human modifications, where teams of engineers worked without sleep to understand technology that seemed almost magical. "We're making progress," Dr. Moon reported during a video conference. With military leadership, their energy weapons operate on principles we're only beginning to understand, but we're learning to adapt their systems for human use. The breakthrough in technology came when human forces led by Captain Im Yibum managed to capture a Caithar command vessel intact. The operation had been incredibly dangerous, requiring a coordinated assault by multiple human units working. Together with perfect timing, Captain Im had personally led the boarding party that fought their way through the alien ship's corridors, facing weapons and defenses unlike anything humans had encountered. Target secured, Captain Im had reported as his team established control of the alien bridge. "Oh, the ship is ours, but we took heavy casualties getting here." The cost had been terrible, with more than half of the boarding party killed or wounded. But the intelligence value of an intact command vessel was beyond measure. The captured ship revealed secrets that changed everything. Intelligence Officer Kim Dae-yoon worked with a team of codebreakers and computer specialists to extract information from the alien systems. Her voice was tight with excitement and fear as she made her report to the command staff. "We've got there." "Staging ground coordinates," she announced, displaying a star map that showed the location of the Cathora's main base in the next solar system. The information revealed that the fleet attacking Earth was only a small part of a much larger invasion force. The Cathara had established a massive staging area in the Proxima Centauri system, where hundreds of ships were being prepared for a second wave of attacks. The aliens had expected to conquer Earth quickly and were already planning to move on. 2 other human colonies in nearby star systems, rather than consolidating their defenses and preparing for the next attack, humanity made a decision that shocked even their own leadership. The debate in the command center was intense, with some officers arguing for a defensive strategy, while others pushed for a more aggressive approach. The discussion continued for hours as military leaders weighed the risks and benefits of different options. "We're taking the war to them," declared Admiral Park Ji-ho, addressing the Joint Command Council after the debate had concluded. His decision represented a fundamental shift in human strategy, moving from defense to offense in a way that would either secure their survival or ensure their enemies paid dearly for their victory. "If we wait for them to regroup and attack, again, we'll be fighting this war forever." The plan was audacious and dangerous. Human forces would use the captured alien technology to launch a counterattack against the Cathara staging ground, striking at the heart of their invasion force before it could be fully deployed. The operation would require every available ship and soldier, leaving Earth itself vulnerable to attack. "This is our chance to end this war," Admiral Park continued, his voice carrying the weight of humanity's future. "We hit them where they don't expect it, using their own technology against them. We show them that humanity doesn't just defend our home. We take the fight to anyone who threatens our survival." The room fell silent as the magnitude of the decision sank in. Humanity was about to launch the first interstellar military operation in their history, attacking an enemy base light years away using technology they barely understood. The outcome would determine not just Earth's survival, but humanity's place in a galaxy that had suddenly become much more dangerous and unpredictable than anyone had imagined. The human fleet that jumped to the Thera staging system was smaller than the original invasion force, but carried something the aliens had never encountered: absolute determination to survive. 57 ships made the journey through hyperspace, each one carrying human crews who understood they might never see Earth again. The journey took 3 days, during which every person aboard the fleet prepared for what would likely be the most important battle in human history. Commander Lee Sung-min led the assault fleet from the bridge of the captured Kythera command vessel, now renamed the Defiance. The alien ship had been modified with human weapons and systems, creating a hybrid vessel that combined the best of both technologies. His voice was steady over the comm as he gave the final order that would begin humanity's first interstellar military operation. All ships engage. Show them what happens when you threaten Earth. The Kythera staging ground was massive, containing over 300 ships and multiple space stations that served as supply bases and repair facilities. The aliens had never expected an attack on their home system and were completely unprepared. For the fury that humanity brought to their doorstep, warning alarms began sounding throughout the staging area as human ships emerged from hyperspace and immediately opened fire. The battle was brutal and decisive, with humanity employing tactics that horrified even their own commanders. Captain Parkrose coordinated strikes against not just military assets, but the collective's entire infrastructure, targeting fuel depots, communication centers, and construction facilities. Her squadron of modified human fighters swept through the staging area like a swarm of angry insects, destroying everything they encountered. "We're not just fighting for survival," she transmitted to her squadron as they prepared for another attack. "Run. We're sending a message to the galaxy." Her words carried the weight of humanity's newfound determination to never again be seen as easy prey for interstellar predators. The human attack was unlike anything the Kythera had experienced. In their centuries of conquest, human ships used suicide tactics, ramming alien vessels when their weapons ran out of ammunition. Engineers jury-rigged explosives to turn cargo ships into massive bombs. Pilots who had trained their entire lives for this moment gave their lives to ensure that critical targets were destroyed. Dr. Moon. Jihoon's reverse-engineered weapons proved devastatingly effective against their original creators. Energy beams that had once been used against Earth now carved through Kythera ships with terrifying precision. The aliens found themselves facing their own technology turned against them. Operated by humans who had learned to use it more creatively than its designers had ever imagined. The turning point came when human forces captured the main command, stationed at the center of the staging area. The assault was led by Captain Im Yibum. Had gained experience in alien ship operations during the capture of the first Kythera vessel. His boarding teams fought their way through corridors designed for alien anatomy, using weapons and tactics that the defenders had never encountered. "Command station secured," Captain IM reported as his teams established control of the facility. "We have access to their entire communication network." The capture gave humanity access to Kythera military codes and communication systems, allowing them to coordinate attacks with perfect knowledge of enemy positions and plans. The battle lasted 18 hours. But the outcome was never in doubt once human forces gained momentum. The Kythera fleet, designed for conquest rather than defense, crumbled under the relentless human assault. Ship after ship was destroyed or captured, while the aliens' carefully constructed staging area was reduced to floating debris. The surviving Kythera ships fled to spread word of a species that responded to extinction with such fury that it was safer to avoid their space entirely. The few alien vessels that escaped carried reports of human tactics that defied every military doctrine the collective had ever encountered. The stories they told would spread throughout the galaxy, warning other species about the dangerous new power that had emerged from the Sol system. As the last enemy vessel jumped away, Admiral Park Ji-ho stood in the command center of the captured alien station. Looking out at the wreckage of what had been the collective's most powerful fleet, the view through the station's massive windows showed the aftermath of humanity's victory. Destroyed ships floating in space, debris fields that had once been proud alien vessels, and the smoking remains of military installations that had taken decades to build. The cost of victory had been enormous. Nearly half of the human fleet had been destroyed, and thousands of soldiers and pilots had given their lives for this moment. But the message had been sent clearly across the galaxy: humanity would not be conquered, enslaved, or destroyed without a fight that would cost any aggressor dearly. Earth had faced annihilation and answered with such devastating force that they had inadvertently announced their presence to the galaxy as a power not to be trifled with, forever changing humanity's destiny among the stars. The species that had once been confined to a single planet had become a galactic military force in a matter of months, earning through blood and determination a place among the galaxy's most feared civilizations. From this moment forward, no alien species would look at Earth and see easy prey. Instead, they would see a world that had awakened to its own potential for destruction and had chosen to embrace that power rather than submit to extinction.